Well, it's actually not, but it's just curious. How many of you, when you make any decision or when you investigate in crypto, have found reliable, comprehensive set of data where you say, wow, really, I know I have everything, I don't need anything more. Okay, much less. That's correct that I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years I've been doing just yoga meditation and didn't have any connection to cryptocurrencies or software. Even though before it I was a software engineer by IBM Hilmant. Now there seem to be like cryptocurrencies in meditation. It's like from two different worlds, but they're not. One aspect we've seen, especially the beginning of this year, last year, in cryptocurrencies, crazy valuation, speculation. Yeah, it has something to do with finances, or basically with human's nature. That when we see some way to make profit, we try to do it, or to gain benefits, we try to do it. But in the background, cryptocurrencies, it's all about how we, as a humans, when we build some products, how we can collaborate together, and when we create a value, how we transparently notice it, store on a blockchain, and especially it works perfectly when the value is digital or virtual, and how we distribute between each other transparently and fair. And this is where, like, once I understood it, my yogi or meditation is just like, yeah, I want to do it. And I applied to financial market analysis or data just because I had some experience before, also analyzing yield over 18 years and applying the crop psychology or ego trace if something else. So for me it was a very natural way to do it. Now I need to form the password. One more question. On a Monday, when I was given a talk during East-West conference, I don't know how many of you have been there? Okay, so it's fine if I repeat at least major points. Few words about Santiment. We are not a new player. We've done ICO last year, before all this madness started. And we started to work on the project even before. Are you? No. We started to work on the project even before.
That's the light.
Yeah. And it was like 2016 and 17. And the reason I mentioned it here, and it was at that time there were many projects doing very nicely ICO before it became kind of used for different purposes, whitelisting, care of community, and built some initial movement on a more or less fair basis. And our vision was at that time, and our platform is now, because the platform is up and running, it's working, is to bring as much as possible transparency, relevant data, and ways of people to understand on a deep and comprehensive level what's happening in crypto, why these things are happening, how these things are connected with each other. And as I say, it was the initial vision. It was actually quite big if you want to become Bloomberg for modern cryptocurrency age, but we are moving very nicely towards our goal, and many things already up and running. When we are talking about cryptocurrencies or understanding, there are a few basic things. Lately, I myself realized it more and more how different actually cryptocurrencies on many aspects are, and how it's actually like a peak or eclipse of development of technology and internet. Then we have moved intensively over the last 10 or 15 years from producing physical stuff, like chairs, cars, lamps, everything you can touch. We moved very rapidly towards digital things, digital values, or even now even more virtual values. Sometimes you can't even see it. And now the blockchain and cryptocurrencies come at the right time when all this, we call it digital virtual values, can be really transmitted between the people, yeah? And like down peer-to-peer basis. So in New Age, which is coming, partially come, we can already extract or like transfer value between each other, and no one is in between. And it's quite amazing, but we haven't realized yet the full power when the platform's up and running, and it's up to us. We have full ownership of everything we created, and no one can take it from us, and we can interact with each other. And there's a big shift coming. And but when we start to understand, okay, it's still economy, still humans, and we are the same like 200 or 2,000 years before, maybe even worse, because we're moving so fast, we have no time to relax. Now, when we interact and we try to value what we're creating, we're easily and very fast getting emotional, and then we're like a lot of us getting emotional, we become irrational. So the valuation of crypto markets is exactly how it is. There's very natural meaning. Just we are, as humans, we're rational and emotional. We can overvalue easily to 20,000 Bitcoin. We can undervalue a lot of assets now in crypto, or they are undervalued. Well, it's kind of clear with the data, but nothing, you got nothing you can change just because we're now afraid. People are afraid of buying anything. And just a little bit of history, because while building physical world around us, we've used a lot of resources from us, and we've been using it, or we have data which shows us evaluation of resources. One of the resources was the 250 years. You will see a few things. One is most important, the evaluation for physical resources have been like volatile all the time, going up and down, for more than 250 years. Now, there is no reason to assume that valuation of digital or virtual resources, which we are building now, will be anything different. It will be the same, and I will show the chart of our crypto. It is already the same. We've seen up and down, and rest assured we're also again up and down. The question, of course, not that it will go up and down, it's a very natural human behavior, but the question is which assets will go up, which will die. When? This is a question everyone is asking, and no one actually knows, even with Bitcoin, even though majority of us assume it will go again up, but will it really do? This is a good question. And two approaches when we been working on it, two sides when we value anything. One is, as I mentioned a few times, it's very strongly crowd psychology, or understanding the emotions behind. And when you understand the mechanics, it will help otherwise it need, because you can directly see when something is overheated, overvalued, or something like now when you're talking like undervalued. So you can, when you can read it, it's a very good understanding for you when there's a risk on the top or great opportunities on the bottom up. So it's one thing. But the second, of course, you need to understand on a much deeper level, not only emotional, but practical, fundamental, what is the underlying intrinsic value for Bitcoin, for Ethereum, for ERC20 token, for governance token, for gaming tokens, for other platforms. What is the value behind? And it's, you can separate emotion and fundamental analysis, but you should combine it at the end, because they're very strictly and very strongly connected. Communities who are behind creating, even the developers, communities who are working with them, even though they have fundamental valuation, but they also stay emotional. You can see in the process of network development, and every token represents the network development. Is it a kind of healthy development now? Has a chance to survive and grow further? Or you're now stagnating and maybe you need to reduce your risk? So you combine both fundamental analysis and crowd sentiment analysis, and that's why we use behavior analysis where it's both combined. And the elephant here has a specific meaning. The story with elephant is many hundred years ago. It comes a story from India, and the blind people, who all of us are now, me included, maybe a little bit open eyes, but still, when we try to understand what this crypto is, how can we understand and value stuff? So we're mostly blind, so we're touching some pieces of data, we talk to someone, and we say, oh, now I know. The crypto is, I don't know, like this part. It's very stable at the moment, very stable. Doesn't move much. And then if someone who enters the crypto market, I don't know, 1 year ago, he has completely different opinion, or he talked to other people, to founders of crypto projects. he will have his own vision. Okay, crypto is this, and he will probably fight the newcomers who will mostly say, "Oh, crypto mostly is a scam. There is no real value there." But once we start talking to each other using different styles of data and look at this crypto elephant from different angles, on the Zen organization, what is really easy started slowly coming. On the Zen, this transition from physical world to virtual world to digital world becomes natural. The Zen trying to understand what is real value created in the crypto based on the data comes also natural. Even then, like daily, when you read the forum or you communicate in the channel and you see the emotion behind this kind of, you cannot sometimes measure, becomes natural for you to say, okay, we are now here, most likely. So we need to look from different angles. And when we do it in our platform, as I said, it's already working up and running. We split into 4 different buckets of data. On-chain data, taken directly from blockchain. Social data, from different, sometimes very specific for crypto channels. Some fundamental data, like activity of developers. And of course, pricing data. Price, volume, orders, especially now with futures. A lot of purely speculation data. Now take everything, and in bold it means that we have already on our platform this piece of data. You take everything, you put together, and then you start analyzing it. And because our platform, as we build it now, has from basic level set of data to higher level set of API, metrics, dashboards, so even higher level, we already recognize some signals. We also want, and this is maybe a major call to action, we're establishing our connection to people who want to be part of this evolution and who can collaborate with us on every level. If you're talented or passionate software engineer, there are enough things we want to work with you together. We have pipelines, gateways where you can attach your sources of data, and there are online challenges later I will show the page, and you will be paid for it, and the code will stay open source, everyone to accessible. Now if you are long enough, and I talked before the event started, there's someone here who really can write reports and explain, even on request, someone said, I want to understand about this token, or about this vertical stable coins. Explain what is this, what interoperability, who are the players, how can I measure them? Someone can write, report, publish on the platform, and get paid for it directly. Yeah, tokenize the skills. So it's kind of about research. And I know a few people, it's a very specific skill. Yeah, you can recognize the signal out of the noise of this informational ocean. If you can recognize this signal, and you can publish it, be it as a human or write a small program or model who keeps informing something is happening, it's important. Same thing, you have a skill, you wrote something, you're able or should be able to monetize it directly, tokenize the skill. This is where the whole cryptocurrency blockchain is moving towards. And we are building on our platform this part. Okay, I think it's enough for introduction. If you have some questions, we can talk about a little now, and then we will go to some dozens of examples where data for specific areas I will show and we talk about it. But now from initial set of explanation, maybe it was fast and much. Maybe someone wants to ask some questions.
Actually, yeah. Does anybody any questions at all? Perhaps anybody would like to throw out something? Again, you can have these conversations a little bit later on. But if you think it's something that could benefit everybody, I'll give you a no. Here we are.
So your data, where does your data really come from? Exchanges, ecosystems? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah. Very basic and yet underestimated metric, data, is developer activity. I sorted by it. Every single project produces something. And it's not so simple to attract talented developers. Actually, it's very hard. And if they keep producing high quality code over a long period of time, it's a good sign. They're committed to something, they're convinced they're doing something valuable, they're not running to another project. It's already a very good metric. It's another question, marketing, this right time, will it pump now or later, it's another question. But unless you see a lot of developer activity on a specific project, you should be warned. Yeah. If they're not building anything, it's a big question. So this data we collect from GitHub, and we build our own metrics, where commits is one part, but there are others like amount of forks, comments. I don't know how many our developers take into account, but it's a unified metric. If something is 400 and something is 100, it means they're building much more than 400 than this is 100. Maybe not 4 times. There are still things which we're improving, but at least 2 times more. There is 2 times more developer activity. So the first metric and the first set of data GitHub, publicly available.
Well, there's 1,500 currencies. Are you covering all of them?
Yeah. Oh, we have a huge cluster of servers or crunching data even when we're sleeping. Well, this is what they're supposed to do, machines.
Okay, we have another question just here.
Who is evaluating how much would be paid, or if the content somebody's providing is valid and good?
Oh, good question. Now, really good question. I see 2 questions. One, who is given the sign this is good quality. And second, who is saying, okay, I'm ready to pay for it 100 or 1,000. In an ideal world, there should be established either subscription model where those who believe they know their value set the price and then go to the lower, or there is an auction model where those who produce timely signals or insights, which are really timely and they can make you win or lose in a relatively short period of time, they run an auction and they say, this is the proof, this is my track record, what I've produced till now. I'm selling 20 or 50 pieces a month. Whoever gives the most can get access to it. At least this is how we're building it now. It might evolve a little bit, but this is the model how we see now. And now, in this ideal world, the perception of quality, it's your subjective. You decide for yourself who you want to really book as a researcher or a signals provider. You just see what he's done before. You decide for yourself what is a good quality for you. Because my definition of quality may be different from your definition of quality. Right now, because it takes quite a lot of effort to build a decentralized network producing content and signals. Well, I've built in the background, but it still takes a lot of effort. What we're doing right now, and today actually is the first day when we do soft launch. I think Frankfurt, I came from Frankfurt, traveled a lot and came back. And we're doing here soft launch of our online challenges. We just switched on the page like, I don't know, like 2 hours ago, literally. No one else knows it. Now we've launched for those who produced good quality, be it insights or research or coverage. We start very simple, you know, like in an lean startup. You don't think too much, you think enough how you can engage with people. 4 rewards per week right now. 1,000 tokens. And the quality, if it's a research, I personally will decide who is a good quality, who is not good quality, I will explain why. So if it's whatever the reason is, I think something is missing, I will explain why. Person will even learn. If I see immediately the value, I will share in all channels and our channels and say this is a great content and someone gets reward. If it's engineering effort, well, we have 2 very talented engineers. They will be able, they will communicate and help and guide therapy. It's almost perfect. Something more has to be done. And if it's a marketing combination of content and very nicely packaged, well, we have also a few content and marketing people they will explain and say. So this is the initial kickoff, where we take some part of our centralization of designing the quality, but once there are enough, it's maybe 20 to 30 people who prove to produce quality, I believe they will be able to decide what is the quality production, and then it can be built quite nice token economy. But the initial stage, right now, we have to decide what is good quality, what is not. Because if we just decentralize, it's very easy to manipulate into, if you vote just with tokens. It's complicated. Okay. So do you want to see some more data? Yeah. Some more insights? Okay. What we've learned during this painful bear market, 8 months of pain, well, intensive pain only, sometimes, most of the time, it's not so intensive, because we have to learn one thing, it's two things. First is, regardless how good some projects are, how strong their fundamentals are, how committed, passionate their community are, it cannot grow. It's like a pump for some time, but the whole market goes down and everything crashes again. So it happened, like, if you check from May till middle of August, it happened many, many times. There's many projects. They are good, we know they're good. They come for some time, the community, or a lot of people participate, but then again, the whole market, I'm not sure, it crashes. And this is the first thing. And the second, in order to make, if we're about trade and speculation, you really need to pay, and not only to details, to some nice projects, you really need to understand the whole crypto market dynamic, where we are now. For this, we will build in quite a lot of, some of them experimental, some of them more established. Okay, so what do you see here? This is the line of sadness and pain. Total crypto market valuations. Yeah? I don't take it longer. So from May, if we take it for 1 year, okay, now it looks good. This is where we've been. 800, no, in English it's billion or million. They're always mixing. Billion. Okay, because in German it's I think milliards. Yeah. I'm mixing all that. So we've been at 800 billion in top, and this is a yellow line, it's the price of, or capitalization of the whole crypto market. Now we're like really still 200, can you believe it? Now in the green line, this is a appropriate kind of signal or metric we've been developing for some time. It shows you amount of projects who are showing unhealthy behavior. And what is unhealthy behavior? In this case, unhealthy behavior is when price tries to grow and grow for some time, but the volume of trading volume activity is not following up. So some point of time, and there's also few who are doing trading constantly, you should have noticed. If you did not, this is a very important point. In the middle of any trend, be it up and down, there is a point of recognition where everyone is convinced or understand, oh, this is where we're going, in the middle. In the beginning, only minority knows that we're going up, and in the top, only minority knows we're going down. But in the middle, like literally 80% of people, they know, and you will see spike of volume, spike of tops, spike of on-chain activity. We've seen it like literally hundreds of times. And whenever we look further in the data, you will see it over and over again. So in the middle. But then when the price keeps growing, interest naturally stops growing and then maybe tumbled, and at peak point, price go up, volume goes down. Yeah? And it's trading volume here. And we have similar stuff for price goes up, amount of tops goes down. Yeah? Like emotion, you cannot always be high. Sometimes you're tired. or you move your attention to someone else. Yeah, price goes up, and on-chain activity, daily active indices, network growth stops or goes down. It's the same pattern. Here we measure, at least in this chart, we measure only trading activity like from volume. The price grows, but at some point of time, massively, a lot of projects show the same pattern. The volume doesn't fall up, and we see top. And here, it's very unusual behavior. Typically, we see 3 kind of spikes, and then the tops comes. It's a very interesting thing then to maybe write some research with some psychology slides about this 3. There seems to be something for humans. We need to repeat some experience 3 times, and then say, okay, now I'm tired. So typically 3 times, some spikes, here 3, here 3, here 3, and then the price goes down and down. This is one thing, and it shows you like the whole situation in the crypto market. Now, where we are now, I've been just in this space. This is where we are now, just actual data. I've been talking to our developers. There seem to be, we need to adjust a few things because the way, or maybe it's too technical. Okay, maybe it's too technical. If you join our channels, I will explain it more. Otherwise, I can talk about another 20 minutes. Just to remember, the whole crypto market has to be observed and understood where we are now. Solely based on prices and volume. Another thing. Very amazing thing our developers did. Because we're collecting a lot of data from Telegram, Reddit, Discord, Twitter, I don't even know where, everywhere, trading forums. We have a lot of data, and this data only for crypto. Google doesn't have it, because they don't collect data from your Discord channel. Or from some sources, I'm sure they don't collect it. And when we started to do it, we knew that talks, amount of talks, and level of talks, and words people using while trading happens in crypto very much related. So now we open it, and you can search for any word which is used in, when traders or crypto people communicating, and you see how it relates to the price. My favorite, well, I have quite a few favorite examples, but this one is amazingly. Okay. Yeah. Now we've been looking before how the price growing and volume is falling. Now another thing, and we keep understanding what's happening in the whole crypto market. Here, how much people have been talking or expecting is at the bottom. When the bottom comes, what's the level of the bottom? There's a simple word, how much the word bottom has been used, and you will see. Then they start looking for bottom long before it comes. It gets activated more and more. Actually, it's very active, talks about the bottom, but it's still shortly before. And then when the bottom comes, it's still intensive. But many people, and if you read the talks, they don't believe, is it really bottom? But here they were sure, this is the bottom, I'm buying. Yeah. So, and then it's very interesting because the data is now for half a year. Now here they've been actively looking for bottom. Here already less actively. And now, actually no one is talking about it anymore. So maybe it's coming, maybe it's already bottom. So this kind of things, once you see the data, well, I'm not saying that you should now massively buy. I'm just explaining the psychology or behavior aspect of crypto market. You will look from different angles. Yeah? You look trading volumes, prices, you search what are they talking about. How is it talking about? And then I will switch also to on-chain analytics. You'll see through data we extract from on-chain. Then you see the picture in a full circle. Here is another very good example. I think Maria likes it the most. She always asks me to show it. Ripple, yeah? So let's see how intensively people have been talking about Ripple. And I entered Ripple or XRP or XRepeat because this was a big story 1 month ago or maybe 3 weeks ago. And we plotted against price of Ripple. This is some undocumented hex. Yeah, now it's gray line is the price of Ripple. Gray line here. And now yellow is the amount of talk about Ripple or XRP or XRepeat. This is a technology on Telegram. Red chart on Reddit. Green ones, well, we call it professional traders. Well, they're more professional than this. Trader charts, room, or whatever. So there are a few things which are very clearly visible here. There is some amount of noise all the time, yeah? And we call it like informational noise. How many messages, like about Ripple is a big project, top 3. So how many messages about discussing Ripple every day? And then you would say that here, somewhere here, the average noise, here, somewhere here, average noise, here, somewhere here. Like some vibration. So you ignore it, there's some noise. But then there comes a signal, like it's suddenly way above an average noise. You notify, oh, something happened. Even if you don't follow the Ripple yourself, something happened. Here's the same, and here's the same. So you have one signal with 2 confirmations. It's above an average. Yeah, and we see the price kind of moved a little bit, but not so much. And it's amazing because in bear markets, very difficult to move market, even on very good news. People don't believe it anymore. Now it's moved a little bit down, but then when price start pushing a lot, the amount of talks is just insane. We haven't seen so many talks about Ripple for months. It's just here. And one day, in Reddit, 2,357 on Telegram, 3,030 among all the channels we're tracking. It's a really insane number. I haven't seen so much for a long time. But another thing, well, you will also see another metrics. Once you experience so strong emotion, you get data which proves, like literally everyone is talking about it. Well, the very next thing in crypto, well, it will go down, and when it starts to build a meetup, it's not even close to it. So people move to other projects. Most likely Stellar, well, sometimes they try to pump Ethereum, even at that time it was hard. So this is a background for you when you analyze crypto market. You need to pay attention, in my opinion, to it. Breakout, peak, again, higher price, much lower volume. Same happening over and over again. And if we bring the line somewhere in the middle, I think this high peak was shortly before the top, but more in the middle. So this part of social data is important. And you can build any search because it's public, we don't close it. Let's see some onchain data. There is another project which is now quite popular. Actually, there are quite some of them. I call them Ethereum decoupling projects because their price doesn't follow Ethereum. Well, Ethereum is kind of stagnating, but there are some projects who are like growing regardless. The whole market is big. It's a MakerDAO, one of the stable coins, 0x, decentralized exchange, basic attention token, I will show now later about, and so on. Quite interesting projects, all of them. And by decoupling, what I mean, if you take the last 3 months, and you press here, compare it for me with the Ethereum price, you will see what decoupling is. This is Ethereum, he doesn't move much, the whole crypto market doesn't move much, but there are some projects where literally like pushing up, like decoupling from Ethereum. And they're all on top of Ethereum. That's why I mean decoupling from Ethereum. Now the on-chain data for this project looks like this. The same story, like green line is always the price, We always, whenever we show something, it should be correlated to the price. Otherwise, you have no insight. And you see two metrics they tell you most of things about the network itself. How many on daily basis active addresses, first one, and how many new token holders join the network on daily basis too. Yeah, but it's quite active network. Even in the worst time, it was around 100 people joined daily. But what we see now, and this is again healthy behavior. If you analyze the market and you heard somewhere about bot, and you consider what should I do now? Yeah, so step one, I would say, look in the whole market where we are now. And as we've seen, people look much less for the bottom good side. The price is kind of stagnating for a long time, and okay, also good side. And I would say, okay, let me see on the network data for this specific token. Price is growing. Is the network activity following? Yes. Is the new people joining? Yes. Did we have it before? Oh yes, it happened 2 times. Yeah. And you see that 2 times there was an attempt. This is what I mentioned in the beginning. It's a good project. It was very great people working on it. 2 times it tried to pump, but because the whole market was in a real build, it go down again. Go down again. Now it's bad for everyone. Can it happen 3rd time? You take your bet. At least you have the data which says, well, it looks quite okay. It's not that price moving up, but I don't see any activities going on. And then you look even deeper. For instance, this metric, it shows, like we mark or label blockchain, Ethereum blockchain, where we say, okay, this is addresses, of course, it's tokens, ERC20 tokens, and this is addresses which belongs to exchanges. And these are the token holders. Now we check how many tokens are moved to exchange, so maybe someone wants to sell or done, and how many are going from, so maybe someone is accumulating. And no surprisingly, an important point on top, here on top, there are some spikes, because they always come with some strong emotions. Sometimes it will be a strong accumulation, or sometimes it will be strong dump. Depends on market phase. But there will always be correlation between strong emotion in the token holders and activity on onchain. And we see that lately, like really, it's if he is an average, you can see them visually like going more and more and more, like almost like a car which going from or to mountain or hill, accelerating like crazy. There's a lot of activities going on, and sometimes people buy a lot or move from exchange. Like lately, even yesterday, someone moved really a lot of tokens out of the exchange, sometimes to exchange. And amount of transaction volume is also quite insane, so it's falling lately, so you need to pay more attention to it if it's right now is a good time to enter or wait a few days. So these metrics which previously when people traded professionally in asset management, they used Bloomberg terminal and you have to pay around 24,000 a year. Now we believe that for crypto this data is relevant. It's on-chain data, or social data, or combination of both. So this is where real activity is happening. And we know that, not Bloomberg, but Thomson Reuters, they try to bring the platform, they're moving much slower. Yeah. Here you have already everything. You need to pay. Because we believe this is not the value where it comes. The value comes when you build some model or machine learning or build some skills, and you can out of this still a lot of data you can squeeze out and say, okay, now something is important happening. Yeah, and you send a signal, and there will be people who will pay for it. This we believe should be very valuable. And in order to access this part of platform, I think you just take right now 1,000 some tokens, and you don't pay to us, you just have it in your account, so that we can give you an access. And you see and you use everything of this. And velocity of tokens also very interesting, how intensively and how many times a day every token moved around or inside the network. And here another, what are the top transactions in the selected time period. And if you want, you can choose a short period of time because there seem to be big transactions, and then you notice that 5 million tokens have been moved from one exchange to another, most likely. There have been some arbitrage going on. Here some moved from this address to exchange or from this address to exchange. And this kind of analysis, when we want to start following these people, who are these people who are moving to exchange or who are like buying and move from exchange to the address, what are they accumulating more? Are they buying any other tokens? And you can go back in history and see what was a good time to accumulate anything. Who've been accumulating? What else did they buy? Are they buying it now? This kind of thinking is applicable, one of the ideas that you can do in the cryptocurrency space. And maybe last thing, before we go to questions and answers, it's see the whole crypto market and observe the tendencies, but also to label or structure it, to see the trends. And the trends in crypto is mostly there is some category group which brings awareness and attention. Last year, first we have ICOs, fresh ICOs, the master nodes, private coins. Now we have stable coins. Everyone is talking about. And it's good to pay attention who are the players in stable coins. Then you simply build a collection of coins and prepared, which I believe is the most important players. And they're like right now building some specific metrics, and you observe what's happening there. And if any of you is software engineer, maybe say, oh, I know how to build some chart, additional visualization, so that we can all together move faster. Build some visualization and publish it, and we can even pay for it. It's one of the potential collaboration. Or another group, like I say, this decoupling, Ethereum decoupling. We've been discussing in our community, and at like one by one projects, their potential buy right now. And you can look in more in depth, see into daily active addresses or how active the developers are, or checking how I showed before onchain statistics, and then you can make your portfolio which reliable or which portfolio which is for right now makes sense. And then I'm pretty sure like in 1 month, and if we talk 1 month again here, there will be another set of criteria which is important for crypto now. So from big picture to more structured categories, and then to pick up the project and see the detailed metrics on chain, social, price point. Okay. Any questions?
I'll just give you the microphone here. Question from...
Here behind.
Yeah.
Thanks for the information. I have several questions. Yeah, but I'll give you just two. The first thing is are the information here available as APIs?
Yes.
APIs. And is it open, or is there a limit for it?
Good question. Very good question. Let me, so that I don't say just something, I will show you actually. There are enough examples and even Python libraries to access most of the data. Not everything I've shown has an API, and in order to work with it, two options. So the 200 some tokens that you will be limited in time on the last 3 months, and I think when you do analysis, 3 months is nothing, then you just buy and stake 1,000 some tokens. And let's say you don't pay, just keep it. If at some period of time, I don't want it, or say no, I don't like it anymore, you just sell it. So 1,000 some tokens, and yeah, here's the libraries, and you can run some requests online in browser and see what it used to do. And in our Discord channel, we We have now dedicated channel with support and product development, where people actually come in every day and ask questions: how I make this request, how I can get this metric. And don't forget about online challenges. We're really like excited and interested now. Once we're like going out and say, okay, we're a core team, we've made enough, but we're also open if anyone can build other things or even better. How can we collaborate and build a platform around it? So if you build something interesting, you're first. And I think, crypto is very fast moving space where if you're not fast enough, someone else will come. Yeah. Okay, second question.
Is it real time? I mean,
yes.
Like minute by minute or seconds?
Block by block. On-chain data is every block. We have our own full nodes. If the metrics are here, it means something happened right now, it's updated. For some of them, there is data aggregation to avoid some noise, but basically for on-chain, we have live data. I think pricing, because for our analysis, we don't need, we don't do arbitrage, or we don't really much pay attention to arbitrage in hardcore speculative sense. We have, I think, 5 minutes less, but it's enough for analysis if you want this kind of analysis.
Last one, for Telegram, right?
Yes.
Do you cover, like, for example, all the channels? For example, like Ripple, right?
Yeah.
Do you like scan for Ripple only in the Ripple groups, or all other available Telegram groups or channels that you have access to?
Yeah, to this one, what questions? I'm quite lost. So let me show this. It's again. Let me see if we have here Ripple. Okay, Ripple is not here, but let's say Tron. Everyone knows about Tron. It's the next generation media platform. So, again, professional trader chart. Then second one is all Telegram charts which are not from Tron, outside. How's they talking about Tron? And this one, the last one, is only Tron-related project discussions. And we always split it because it's very interesting to see. Oh yeah, now all our developers also did last week Discord, we also subscribe Discord channels. And Discord discussion, all channels. We don't split it yet between any not Tron related and only Tron. I think actually Tron does not have a Discord channel dedicated. At least we didn't find it. So all Discord channels, only Tron related, and all others Telegram channels. And this data is also updated in live. And green is price, you see. Lately we need a little discussion, but it was so intensive close to the top.
One question with regard to the correlations, especially the off-chain data you showed with Ripple. How fast do they happen? And can a user get an edge on the market?
Yes. Short answer, yes. It's definitely designed or dedicated to give you an edge. Long answer, it's not so easy. You really need to understand the whole behavior dynamic of market, then it's become easier. You need to write very fast. This kind of, because this data is collected from channels where people are talking, so you can imagine everyone is talking. And especially after one bear market, everyone wants to in. So at this point of time, you have to be careful. It might be already over. But if you recognize this early signal, when it just was 3 to 5 times above the average, and you say, oh, price haven't moved yet, then you can take a risk. Reward potential is very high.
Can ask without the microphone. My question would be, as I understand it, like I see it's something like for professionals, like for traders who understand, as you said now, you have to understand the signals, and for like big companies who want to work with the data. But if you want to become a platform for like really a lot of people, it has to be much more easier. And the question would be, what do you do as a company to make it easy for people who don't understand anything about charts but still want to use something?
They're really evening of great questions. What can be better? Here, and I've been mentioning that we're running now today's official date of soft launch of our online challenges. Like next week when we're in DevCon, we will do it like properly. So we have 1 week to claim the sample because there is no competition yet. Now we've been actually running it we didn't reward, just for us, for community was interesting, how we can take the data and make it readable for normal people. And there is a part here, it's called insights. Well, you need at least some tokens, even I think 1 will be enough to see it. And here you will see, opening now. Someone takes the data from our platform, put it together, and then write his conclusion, how he understands it. Yeah? It was someone, I know who is it. You could be this one too. Once you get acquainted or adjusted or understand this data, it's not so much skill to understand, it's a little bit effort and skill not to write too much. Because the time for insight is always like, for me personally, like 2 times a day. I understand something about the market, the rest I know I don't understand what's going on, so I don't write anything. No. But the data is here, and you can either look what others are writing, or you can write for yourself and start using reputation. Prepare for yourself, and you can tokenize your skills. So this part is dedicated for explanation and introduction and research in our data and showing others what does it mean.
But this is after the price moved. They explain what happened, but
sometimes
is there also something which, something like we believe the price will move, or like signals?
Actually, I like this one. It's a text, no charts, but you should read it. When was it written? October 16, and it's 1 week ago, yeah? And he mentioned connection in the crypto that there are big players. In this case, I think he mentioned Novogratz. And if they move money into something, and they connect it to Coinbase, there's a high chance they know what they're doing. Because they definitely want to limit their risk if they move, they move like 100 millions. So you cannot risk so much. So they prepared something. And they invested this time, I think it was MakerDAO or some other project. So he analyzed it, where else are they possibly invested, can it grow? And it happened in last week. This project were promoted with 0x and all this. So you can read just the text. And it was, actually, this time was good and very right time. You cannot expect it to happen like every single day, but if you can, you claim the place, you will be the one who can write it in the proper time. And of course, there will be mistakes. I myself was writing the report, some were good, but sometimes I expect things to change a little bit too early. Like I see things, I write, it happens a little bit later. So you need to learn the behavior of. Actually, I know who wrote it. Oh, okay. So, he wrote only 1 time, but here you will see how many things I wrote. And then you can see, and if you analyze, you will see at what point of time usually he writes, how many times he's right, or is he going to be a market to pay? I don't know.
Another question here?
Yeah.
So, there's an extensive database, congratulations. Are you planning to do some research on STOs? Because there isn't hardly any data on STOs. I mean, T0s raised 100 million. I think there's going to be a trend in STOs in the future. So are you planning anything in that field?
Okay. Short answer, yes and no. Why yes and why no? Yes, because it's clearly part of the trend or where market wants to move. It's been like for some time, and now really some things start happening. And no, because because of online challenges and this part of the platform, we really want to start others to build their reputation, to tokenize their skill. We want to keep our focus as a core team, or similar to Ethereum. I don't compare to Ethereum, but similar. They don't write all these ICOs, and they just keep focused on providing infrastructure, and they have enough things to do. So we are not in Ethereum, but I know from our team that they're busy like almost every day with things to scale and keep it running. So if you or someone else can come and discuss with me what metrics are important, we create this category. We call it security tokens, and you can see all the metrics, and you can start writing reports, and I'm sure if it's early enough, people will pay for it. Or even I don't know, if there's something to learn more about it. Yeah. But we will provide the data, yeah. No question about it, we will provide all the necessary data.
Okay, any other questions perhaps? Go for it, you don't need the mic.
Try you like ask the second question.
One question would be like, where's the difference between your platform and, for example, TradeView or Santiment, or because there I have also people who are posting charts, giving signals. I can follow them. Somebody is good, others are not so good. My answer would be: is it that you provide some data and the people are using it, so maybe their predictions are better? And the second question would be about the token economics. Like probably you have the token because you want to create something like an ecosystem to pay people and do something, and the value would go up because people have to stake it, and big companies would go in and would have to buy tokens.
Okay, so I will start from the end. The value of token, how we design it now. One, of course, the more people realize it's valuable and they start staking, yeah, it kind of limits the supply. And second, because there are institutional or like big players who are paying in fiat, they can use tokens for getting discount up to 50%. So it's also quite established now model in crypto discount model. And the most impressive example is Bitcoin. It's nothing else but discount model. So this is the basic things which we are focusing now. And later, if we are able to build more cases, like one, you can participate in value redistribution, like voting for something. If you vote nice and others support it, you get rewarded. All the things. Well, there will be additional ways of creating value, but this is the two basic one: staking, limited supply, as discount one, which is not burned. You use discount and you go away, or use something else. Now. The difference, there are many. First, it's only about crypto market and only about understanding, doing behavior analysis. Still not about everything. The more focused you are, the better. Second, yes, it's data we have it. We collect it. We pay attention, or sometimes pay money or resources to mine it, to discover this data, and we know when we build it why it's valuable, so we don't give just something. And the third, compared to TradingView. They don't have any on-chain data, they don't provide any social data, and their business model is subscriptions which you use for charting. So it's very different actually product. We ourselves are using also TradingView when we analyze, when I want to draw some Elliott waves or Fibonacci levels. I don't want to repeat the same functionality on my platform. I rather take it from TradingView, it's fine. Our focus is different.
Okay, any last questions perhaps before we wrap up the evening and move on to something to eat and something to drink? Any last questions? Again, I'm sure if you do have something and you're curious, want to know more over a drink, absolutely, you'll be more than happy to, well, certainly more than happy over a drink, but more than happy to share more insights as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Maxim Balashevich. Well done, fantastic.